Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 106. The Six Nations kicks off in a few months, but before that, the squad announcement on Thursday. So we're making our predictions here and now. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's hard to believe we've managed to bring you another episode in less than a week. We did promise that we would be back to our regular schedule of at least one episode a week, and we've gone one better. I think we've done about 6 days. So thanks for joining us again. I'm joined, of course, by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. We may even go even better this week because we might even do one on Thursday when England Six Nations squad is announced.
We might do. I don't know whether everyone would agree that was better, but we might do it anyway.
It's certainly worth a try, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, so, actually, before you kick off, Hackers, what I wanted to do is we got quite a lot of good feedback from a quiz last week. I think people quite enjoyed taking part. So I put together just a very short quiz again this week. So I thought, why don't we start with that before? Because there's a few bits to cover this week. So I thought, why don't we start with a quick quiz to see who's got their rugby brains switched on? Sounds
good. So are we going to make this a bit of an ongoing feature, are we? Not that I have an objection to that. I quite like it.
Yeah, I'm not going to commit to it every week because there's only so much I can copy before people start getting pissed off. But,
I mean, you learn to write your own questions, perhaps. But let's see what you've come up with. Okay. So just a quick one, just a 5-question quiz. And I thought with the Six Nations approaching, we'll go Six Nations focus. Now, first question, mate, don't get this wrong because you'll be an absolute dickhead if you get this wrong. And actually, it'd be embarrassing to be in a rugby pod and get this one wrong. So no pressure, but just don't be a moron. In the 2019 Six Nations, England's first match is against Ireland. Where is that match being played? I mean, if I phoned a friend, I guess I'd be told Twickenham, but I believe it might be in Ireland.
Of course it's in Ireland. What sort of fucking dickhead thinks it would be in Twickenham?
Smooth.
More on that later.
Oh, yes.
Question 2, and this one's sort of moving. When was the first ever Six Nations held? What year?
I was thinking way back, but that was 5 nations, wasn't it? 6 nations. That's when Italy joined. 2000? I'm going to go 2000.
Sorry, do you want me to answer now or do you want me to go back the answers at the end?
Let's do the answers at the end because then everyone else can have a crack at it as well.
Cool, so you're saying 2000. Okay.
2000.
So, question 3. In the 2009 Six Nations, 2 brothers started for England for the first time since the Underwoods in the 1990s. Who were those 2 brothers? It's the 2009 Six Nations.
I'm guessing it would have been... our scrum half, the Youngs brothers.
So you're saying Youngs? Okay. Question number 4. Which team won the first ever Six Nations championship?
Assuming I was right about 2000, and that was 3 years. Was that? Did England's winning streak start the following year? I think it might have done. So I'm going to say France. I don't know why, and I'm probably wrong. I don't think it was England. I think England started their winning streak building up to the World Cup in 2001, possibly 2002. I don't think it was 2000. I think. Anyway, yeah, I'm saying not England. I'm going to go France just because I don't think Ireland were firing back then.
Okay.
And I don't want to pick Wales.
Okay. And the
Yeah, obviously. And the final question of our mini quiz is: which player has made the most 5/6 Nations appearances for England?
Current or just historically?
Historically, and there's a clue in the question.
About what, the historical thing?
Well, as in
if 5 nations are included.
Yeah.
5 and 6, so combined total, yeah?
So yeah, either 5 nations or 6 nations, or possibly they overlapped.
Yeah. So the total number of which England player has done the most appearances? I want to say I don't know. Who's our most capped? We said this last week. Who's our most capped? Jason Leonard, based on the fact that he's our most capped player ever and probably crossed over. Did cross over, in fact, because he was involved in the 2003 World Cup. And if we're talking appearances, I'm going to go Jason Leonard.
Okay. Well, we'll go back to the answers then. So, question 1, 2019 Six Nations match, England versus Ireland, is indeed being played at the Aviva in Ireland.
Well, I mean, that will certainly respond to a number of emails that we've had, Dan, over the past week from people. We'll read them out afterwards. Just give people their shout out. But lots of people letting you know about that one. You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, I completely messed those matches up. The 2 losses to Ireland from Twickenham and got it wrong. And what I'd say to all of you guys who messaged and mugging me off, fair enough, I deserve it. And you're welcome to keep them coming, because that was a terrible thing. I don't know, in my head, I don't know why I had Twickenham. As soon as someone said Ireland, I'm like, yeah, I know. Then I'm like, oh, what was I on about? But I apologise. It is, of course, in Ireland. So well done. Question right. Question 2. When was the first ever Six Nations held? You said 2000. It was indeed in 2000.
Ah.
So congratulations, because the last ever 5 nations was 99 and was won by Scotland, actually.
Ah.
So question 3. In 2009 Six Nations, 2 brothers started for England for the first time since the Underwoods. You said the Youngs brothers. Good shout. I think that was a bit early for Tom Young, certainly. It was actually the Armitage, Stefan and Dylan Armitage.
Yes.
But the Youngs brothers, a good shout. But yeah, it was. I
completely forgot about the Armitage brothers. I guess because Stefan kind of fell off the scene, didn't he? Unfortunately.
Yeah, and he didn't get many caps. So
despite being one of the best players in the world.
Well, I think he became one of the best players probably when he moved to France.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
But yeah, that was a shame. Question 4. Which team won the first ever Six Nations championship? You said France. It was actually England.
Was it England?
It was England. We won 4 matches. We only lost 1 match, and that was to Scotland, which was the last match. And Scotland, that was the only match they won that tournament. They'd lost to Italy, but they beat us in the last match.
Typical.
Good for them.
So England must have had some more losses after that. Or was it because we lost that match that the winning streak then began? Oh, no, because we didn't have an unbeaten year.
No, we didn't. We did. And like, it was from 2000. So, and then 2001 as well. Like, every Six Nations we seemed to lose up until 2003. We always lost like 1 match.
Right, and then the Grand Slam was 2003.
Yeah, and then the Grand Slam was 2003.
Yeah.
But it was, So it was England. And if I'm honest, mate, I probably wouldn't have asked the question if it wasn't England.
I mean, that possibly should have been one of my points for consideration. It wasn't. Let's move on.
Cool. And then
final question. Which player has made the most 5/6 nation appearances for England? You said Jason Leonard. Jason Leonard is the correct answer.
Boom.
So a
4 out of 5, I think.
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. Strong. It's strong again. What's that? I mean, I'm not going to do the maths. But it's somewhere around the 50.
It's 60%.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's pretty much what I got last week, isn't
it? Yeah. It's not bad. In fairness, they're not always easy questions because things like when does Six Nations start? It's easy to get the years mixed up. The Youngs brothers, fair enough, but compared to the Armitage, I'm asking you to think back a long time. But
you're asking a lot. But it's probably time I asked some questions of you. So next time round, I'll see if I can't put something together. Maybe even go so far as to pick some questions that aren't in another quiz somewhere.
Oh, look at you, fancy pants!
Going crazy. Anyway, shall we begin our episode proper?
Let's do that.
And a good way to do that is always to have a quick read out of some of the emails and things that we've received. You'll notice, I think, a bit of a theme in some of these. First one is from Matthew Lowry. He says, "Hi lads, great to have a fans-only pod. You're both doing a great job, but suggest you have the fixtures in front of you when talking about them, as the opening game for England is at the Aviva, unfortunately. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Matthew." And he's based up in Newcastle. So Matthew, thanks for getting in touch, and absolutely right. Call Dan on his errors.
Matthew, congratulations. You caught out when I was just checking to see who was listening.
That's what it was. Tony Hunt says, "Hi chaps, firstly, let me be one of the many who correct Dan. It's Ireland away this year. The way to remember it is that we play all the teams who wear blue at home this season."
Do Ireland not play in blue?
They don't.
That's where I went wrong. Oh.
I don't think Dan's going to forget now, but that's certainly one way to remember it. And secondly, he says, "I feel the captain has to be a player who is guaranteed a starting place." I don't disagree. How many of those are there at the moment? He asks. What do we think?
That's a good point.
This is obviously in reference to our whole debate about Dylan Hartley and Owen Farrell not being captain and stuff. I feel like, without going into too much on this, I feel like we're too close to a World Cup to start thinking about things like that. And actually, the captain has to be guaranteed to be involved in the 23 and probably to start. But as we've seen with Dylan Hartley for the better part of probably 2 years now, playing half a game, he's still, I think, the best captain England have had under Eddie Jones.
Yeah, I mean, there's not been many of them. So I think it's a good point. Hence, the sort of almost get the co-captain, because he isn't guaranteed to start. And there are matches and times where Jamie George probably is the right option to start, because I think firstly you've got to start with your best team. I think it's probably a little late now. I would still be shouting for Launchbury, because I think when he's fit, he's guaranteed to start. But I think this co-captain thing is something we're going to see now.
Yeah, and I think as well, Mauro Itoje, I think, is still a future England captain. I mean, he did a pretty good job for the under 21s or 20s, whatever they are these days. And I just think he's the next kind of, he's going to be the next, or he's in with a shout of being the next sort of Jono type captain. Who can be, lead the boys for a substantial amount of time. Do you not think? Especially with work rate and everything else, we've seen what he's been doing. You look at what you had it in your quiz last week. Most rucks hit in the world.
Yeah.
That's the sort of work rate you want from a captain. We know he's super fired up all the time. He's constantly gearing everybody up. Congratulating them for winning rucks and mauls and making tackles and God knows what else. So I don't know. I think watch this space on that one. I don't disagree with you about Launchbury. I think he'd be a good shout. Although I think he's probably a bit quiet. But I think Mauro might be a future England captain. But it's, as you say, it's we're too close to World Cup now, so we can moan about it. But I suspect Owen Farrell will continue to be the vice captain / co-captain. but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that point probably hinted towards that the co-captains is almost needed, because maybe if we don't want to get rid of Hartley as in a captaincy role, but rightly so, I don't think he's guaranteed a starting place.
But is that not what your vice captain's for? To step in when the captain's unavailable for any reason?
Yeah, but
the captaincy is not just about what happens on the pitch. It's everything else as well. It's being a leader for the team. In a World Cup year with everything that entails. Both on and off the pitch. I kind of feel like, just commit to your man that's stuck. That's led your team through the last 2 years. That clearly respects him. 3 years, sorry, yeah, that clearly respects him, and say to Owen Farrell, you are a leader and an important member of this team, and you'll continue to be the vice captain. And when Dylan's unavailable, whether that's because he comes off the pitch, whether it's because he doesn't start on it, or whether he's not involved at all on match day, that's where you step into his shoes, rather than having this whole co-captaincy thing, which is the sort of thing you expect to see on an American football pitch. How weird was it watching with like the one of them would do the coin toss, and then the other one, it was like one, and the other one gets to lead the team out, and then they'll switch it around the following week, and it's like something you did at school. In fairness,
that was because that was because the question was asked, not because it was a predefined sort of statement. I mean, the question was asked, so I guess it had to be answered. I'm kind of with Tony here, like, although like Dylan, yes, maybe stick with him, but if Eddie isn't planning on starting him that much, it's all very well having a captain who may not start 20% of the games, but if Eddie's not planning on starting him for 50% of the games, I actually do want the captain to start at least the vast majority. But let's see how it goes this Six Nations. I think we're stuck with it, and we'll
see how it pans out.
Yeah, okay, I think so.
Moving on then, slightly different email here. This one was short and sweet. He just said, Ireland versus England at the Aviva on the 2nd of Feb, not at HQ. I know you've been away for a while, but come on, gents.
Yeah, that's my bad. I need to own this, don't I? I need to wear this.
Like a crown, I think.
I don't mean like maybe a crown of thorns. I screwed that one up, and my apologies. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say here. So if we could pick up the thread now, Ackers, to save my embarrassment, we
will do. I don't know if I mentioned. I think I did mention our good friend. Well, we did. We talked about our good friend Wade Ackford on the last pod, and how we turned him around. And I believe you had a sort of an explanation, a description of the type of person that he must be, based on the way he kept changing his mind.
That wasn't meant. It wasn't meant as a.
No. And I don't think it was taken that way either, because he's posted another one for us. Only this time he's changed the title to "The Girl You Fancy in the Playground." He remains at 5 stars. He says, "Boys, oh my days, you're back. I thought Dan had been recruited by Uncle Eddie as Kitman and Andy by Donald Trump on his USA Odyssey. In addition, I can't believe anyone lusted after you in those dim and distant days in the playground, Dan. Calm down, man. Anyway, fine to have Laurel and Hardy back with their fine slapstick show. You two are always missed. And if you were not giving them guidance in 2019, I think they would have no chance in Japan. I'm starting to believe. Regards, Wade Ackford." Or WD, as he's obviously really known. So obviously we've properly turned this one around, so really appreciate that. And then since then we've also had a new one from Claff Bandit, who says, "Quality over quantity, 5 stars. He says, "You might have fewer listeners than some other podcasts, but I'm betting those of us who do listen never miss an episode. Top work, chaps. Please don't change it. We love it the way it is."
Thanks very much. So, that's awesome. That's really nice. I like that one. What's a Claff?
His name?
Oh, just because it was Claff Bandit, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, calls himself Claff Bandit. I couldn't tell you more. Couldn't tell you more than that, I'm afraid.
No, fair enough. But thanks very much. That's a really cool review. I appreciate it, and thank you, Wade, again. And Wade, just to correct you, I was sought after in the junior playground, and actually, Big John's doing very well for himself now. So I think I was sought after by a very nice young chap.
Dan,
but
Ireland.
Shut up.
Shall we move on? Yes, let's. So yes, a few reviews, a few emails. Always nice to get. Keep them coming. Thanks, guys.
There's one more email, actually. We got an email from Josh Copping, who's one of our younger listeners, who said he had sort of told his friends about the pod. So, Josh, thank you very much. A big shout out to yourself. And he also asked a question that's actually a really interesting question, so I'm going to put to you, Akkers.
Okay.
He said, what do we think about England versus Wales, the Six Nation? And that is a match that's a very interesting match, I think.
Well, I'll
let you go ahead with your...
Firstly, Josh, thanks for getting in touch, and thanks for listening, and thanks for spreading the love to your friends. Hopefully they are listening too. Secondly, if you were listening last week, you'll remember that England are going to be unbeaten now until after the World Cup. So obviously, first things first, England win against Wales. I mean, obviously, we're playing in Wales.
Yes,
but
yes.
as has been said in the past by Eddie Jones, why should it make any difference that you're travelling an hour or 2 hours down the M4? It shouldn't.
It does. It does. Like, realistically, it does make a difference.
No doubt we'll mess them around and we'll leave the roof open.
Of course. Well, we're not messing them around. We're just asking for a normal game of rugby.
This is true. Asking if they're not to be soft. I think
Exactly.
I don't know. I didn't watch a huge amount of the Wales games during the autumn, so I know they got some good results, but I also know they weren't playing as tougher selection of teams, and they were playing. I think didn't they debut quite a few people during the autumn as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment,
they've got a few injuries. Faletau's going to be out for the Six Nations. He's got a broken arm.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
They've got a couple of big injuries at the moment who have been selected for their squad, but obviously time will tell how fit they are, and even if they are fit, are they match fit enough if they get selected? I don't know. I'm not really thinking. I know that there's lots of people who will massively disagree with me, and people saying that Wales have got just as much, if not a better chance than England. I don't believe that. I don't think they're there yet. So my concern is Ireland solely.
So Ireland are definitely the biggest threat, but I think the Wales question is a really interesting one. I can't figure out at the moment if Wales are a sort of sleeping giant have snuck under the radar because they've had a really good run of form, and they really have, or if they've just been, the fixtures have come at the right time for them, and maybe they haven't been as challenging as they've had historically. I just don't know yet. I think the jury's still out on that. So I actually think England-Wales could be a really interesting match, because if we lost to Ireland, which I don't think we will, but if we did, I don't think it would be too much of a concern, as long as we saw a way, like against New Zealand, as long as we saw a way how actually we can beat them on the day Ireland outplayed us. If we lose to Wales, I think there's maybe somewhat of a worry, because I think Wales have, that helps build Wales's sort of momentum going forward. It would be a huge win for them. So they will be massively up for the England match.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're on a massive winning streak at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why people are taking notice. I mean, I've just pulled up the results from the autumn internationals. So they comfortably beat Scotland, but Scotland were very poor in that game. It's one that I did see. They beat Australia 9-6. For them, it was the first time I think they've beaten Australia for some time, ever. I don't know.
For a while, not ever, for a long time, yeah.
But as we found out in that same series, Australia were pretty poor, and
they were poor against us,
and it was 9-6. So I don't know how much to read into that. They destroyed Tonga, but again, don't know how much you can read into that. I know Tonga are a physical side, but the bottom line is they're not up there in the top flight, and they beat South Africa 2011, which was a good game. But South Africa, I think, obviously following on for some really great form, had a few issues. Didn't have a great autumn sort of tour. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess you look at that and go, well, they beat Australia and South Africa.
Yeah, I think we need to give them some credit for that.
And that's the big, the big thing. I don't know if Australia and South Africa had been New Zealand and Ireland, would they have lost those two games? If Scotland had been England, potentially, would they have lost that game? Do you know what I mean? Like it's. I know you can ifs and buts, and we could say the same thing of if any other team. I'm just not sure that those results say to me, oh my God, we need to really keep an eye on this team. They are firing.
So that's what I meant when I was saying earlier. Are they sleep? I'm not sure if they are sleeping giants or if the right fixtures have come at the right time. I genuinely don't know.
I think this Six Nations is the test for them. I mean, this is where they need to sort of show that they either are contenders or they're not.
But don't forget, I think they're ranked third in the world at the moment.
Well, no, they are, but that's on. The trouble with the rankings is that you can, if you have a load of games against opposition that are ahead of you in the table, you kind of gain more.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So you beat Australia, you beat South Africa. They're both ahead of you in the rankings. It bumps you up. I don't know. Yeah, if it was the other way around, we'd be saying, look at the table, look at the results, unbeaten, third in the world. I'm not convinced they're the third best team in the world. Bottom line.
No, I'm not.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not right now. They're not a side that I'm desperately worried about. I may rue the day I say that, but since I know that England are going to be unbeaten until after the World Cup, at the same time, there's probably not a lot to worry about.
I hope you're right. I think in Cardiff, it's a tough game. It's always a tough game. And I think it's important England win that match.
So, yeah, it'll be a big game, but England just need to win everything from now on.
Let's hope so, my man. Let's hope so.
And then raise the trophy.
But yeah, either way, Josh, thanks very much for the question. Much appreciated. And yeah, please keep listening. Please keep spreading the pod to your friends.
Yeah. And if guys, if you've got any questions you'd like us to ask, I pick up the emails and Dan doesn't, so I can pose those questions to Dan live on the pod, and then other people will have an opportunity to answer them too. So if you do want to add any questions into one of our quizzes, chuck them across, and I'll make sure that Dan doesn't find out what they are beforehand, so there'll be no looking up of answers. Yeah, other than that, keep your questions coming and stay in touch. That's what this is all about. This journey is one that we're doing together. So So what? Moving on then, Dan. Today's episode really is going to be about discussing England's Six Nations campaign, and I think, as you mentioned, the squad gets announced on Thursday.
It does.
So, what are we going to do? Are we going to make some predictions? Have a look at.
Let's have a look what that might look like. So, I honestly don't know how it's going to look. So, I had a quick look, and if we're saying last year, I believe it was a 35-man squad, and sort of a breakdown of the squad. So, initially, if we start, they're saying last year it was 3 hookers. So, I think Hartley and George are almost definite.
Get my little piece of paper out.
So for me, I just had a quick look at this, and Hartley and George, and to me, my third hooker, and I may be wrong here with injuries. There may be injuries that people have, and I'm saying names of people who are injured. But as far as I'm aware, Cowan Dickey is still not injured. To me, he's still the number 3 hooker. So I think he'd be my third choice.
Yeah,
hooker.
I was going to say, do you know what? We're obviously going to announce the full squad, 30 odd men, whatever it's going to end up being, on Thursday. For today, should we concentrate on on the 23, because I think that's potentially where things become a bit more interesting in terms of those that are back versus those that have maybe stepped up in the autumn, and where because there'll be a couple of positions where it'll be an interesting decision which way he goes, because it's like, do you take the guy who's proven himself most recently, or do you take the guy who proved himself before he got injured?
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
So,
but do you want us to focus on what we want or what we?
Well, let's just discuss as we're going through, rather than just list a team, and then it'll come out. There'll be a and at the end we'll make a decision based on going one way or the other. But
so okay, if we look at the first 23 when England meet Ireland at Twickenham, just kidding, relax, everyone, chill. Wade, sit back down, sit.
Right.
Sorry. Sorry, I don't know why I'm picking on you, Wade. I'm not meaning to be a dick. I just am a dick. So if we look at the 23s, okay, so we say match day. So match day squad, you're going to have two hookers, Hartley, George. I think that's not up for debate. Although Hartley, I believe, is having some injury issues, but let's say that's fine. So it'll be Hartley, George. The props. My starting props are probably going to be Moon and Sinclair.
Not Mako.
My starting props are going to be Mako and Sinclair, as I said. So they're going to be my...
Yeah.
And then I would probably go Moon and Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got any ideas there?
No, mainly because I just don't know enough about props, as we have established in many previous episodes. But I know that Mako's back, and he was obviously missed, despite the fact that Moon did make put in a great show. But I think they're the four. And the thing with prop is that starting, finishing, it doesn't really matter that much, because they tend to get the best part of half each. It's obviously the starters get a little bit longer, but these days it's pretty much a 4-man unit, isn't it? So I think that's front row: Hartley, George, Mako and Moon, Sinclair and Williams. And I think that's probably I think that's probably what he'll stick with, and it's probably what I want to see as well. So I think in that respect, ticked off. Move on to the second row, where Marrow.
Yeah, for me, the starters are obvious.
Yeah,
it's Marrow and Launchbury, especially the way Launchbury's played. Like I just think he adds so much.
Yeah. So the question is then, who is your replacement second row? Do you go with Laws?
I'm going Courtney.
Do I agree? I think I do agree. Just purely because of one because he offers. He can play back row, and whether or not you're thinking about playing him in the back row or not, it just gives you that extra element in terms of what he's capable of doing from the second row. It's I think it's the right call. I think it's what I want to see, and I think it's what we will see. So I agree with you. I think Laws is probably the replacement there on the bench, and Cruz misses out.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, Cruz, I believe, will be in the wider squad, as I think Elliot Stoke or whatever will be as well. But I think match day, it's Launchbury, Marrow, and Laws.
So back row.
Back row, yeah. This one
gets a bit more complicated now, doesn't it?
You've got to have Billy starting, right?
I think it's a must. I think it's a must, which is yes, but and then what do you do 6 and 7 though?
I would go personally, and this is based upon, I believe Underhill's injured, isn't he?
Oh, is he injured again?
I think he's injured and will be out at least for the start. So for me, my starting back row would be Billy at 8. I'd have Wilson at 6 and Tom Curry at 7.
See, I 100% agree. You want Wilson in there. Is Eddie going to do what Eddie loves to do, which is where he goes, no, he's a number 8, even though he is also a 6?
I don't think so. No, I think he'll be happy to play him at 6.
In which case, I mean that for me, I think that's strong because we he obviously shone in the number 8 shirt, but I think 6 is his preferred position, isn't it?
I believe so. I believe he's sort of 6. I believe he's a 6 or 7. But yes, for me, I like him at 6. So I'd like to see Billy 8, Wilson 6, and Tom Curry. I would have gone Underhill if he was
over Curry.
I think so.
Yeah. I have just confirmed that Sam Underhill has been ruled out of the entire championship. He's having surgery. So you are correct.
Yeah, so in which case I'd go Curry. And my back row reserve would actually be Mercer. Because I think Sam Simmons is still out. I'd have liked him otherwise. There's still, I guess, you've got Shields or Hughes. But for me, I think I'd go Mercer as my back row sub for a matchday squad.
I mean, he may well go with 2 back row subs because he does like to have Hughes in as a like-for-like replacement for Billy. But then if you're going to go Zach Mercer, you're not going to have another number 8. Especially when you've got Wilson in there. You'd have 4 number 8s in your back row 5.
But I think Wilson's not naturally an 8, and I think Mercer can play on the flank as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then who would be a potential instead? Shields?
Well, I part of me thinks that he is a huge fan of Eddie's a huge fan of Brad Shields, and that potentially, like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Shields on the pitch as a starter, just because Eddie's
it wouldn't surprise me. And actually, against Australia, he played really well.
Yeah, he did. So I'm going to say it's going to be Shields. But I'm with you in I would quite like to see Zach Mercer as the option. Possibly both of them.
But then where do you lose? Where do you lose the number 4? Where do you lose where do you lose a forward sub? What would you not have Laws in?
No. I think he'll have the extra forward sub.
What, and then only have 2 backs?
Yeah, because it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
And then you'd only have
8 subs, yeah?
Yeah, then you'd only have 2 backs. Bearing in mind you need a scrum half.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to this. Let's put a pin in it for a minute. Let's come back to it. So, scrum half, Young's probably going to start. Danny Kerr. Is Danny Kerr?
I want Youngs and Kerr, yeah.
Yeah. It's what we both want. We'll see whether it's what we get. I think it will be. Fly half's going to start with Farrell.
I hope so.
Yeah, this is where now we're into the backs. We're kind of going a little bit more towards, I think, what we want rather than what we expect. Centres.
He'll start Farrell at 10. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think that, if you want to call it an experiment, I don't know whether you can really call it an experiment when you're talking about one of the best fly halves in the world, but it's kind of what it was in the autumn. It worked. So, it was definitely an experiment that was positive. So I think, yeah, Farrell at 10, at least to start with. Centres, I want to go with what I want, but he's going to go with.
What do you want?
I'd like to see Manu and. That's a good question because now we've got to start talking about JJ, who's back in. But
JJ again. Hasn't played yet, and well, I'm not convinced JJ will be ready.
No, you're probably right. So, and do we want to see Manu at 12 or 13? I think we want to see him at 12, breaking them up. So I think Manu 12, and then unfortunately, I think it'll be Henry Slade.
I want Slade.
At 13.
I like Slade.
I know you do, but I've seen him in an England shirt.
Ooh.
I think we'll see. I think Slash would like to see Farrell and Manu at 10, 12. I think we'll see Slade at 13.
Do you know what I'm also going to say? I'm going to make a call here. I don't think he'll be England's player of the tournament because I think that'll be launchery. I think Slade will be England's second player of the tournament.
What? Where are you picking this from?
Mate, I really rate Slade. I think he's getting better and better every time in an England top.
I mean, he can only get better in an England top.
Really well.
There wasn't room to get worse.
Mate, I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as you think so. Leave him alone. He's beautiful.
Okay, he's taken over from Billy 12 Trees for you. Johnny May.
He has to start.
And Cokanasiga, I would start.
Yeah.
Joe Cokanasiga looked awesome in the autumn, and I think, just given his physicality as on top of the pace, I think he offers something that England haven't had for a little while on the wing, and I think he's probably pushed himself ahead of the other options in Ashton, Noel.
Don't forget, Noel's playing well. Noel had a good comeback. But
it's a problem area for England in a good way, because there's Noel, there's Ashton. You've got Anthony Watson, I believe, is back. Is he actually playing?
I'm not sure he's back yet.
Is he not? Is he still?
I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think he's back yet. I'm not sure. I think Watson may not be about for this Six Nations, actually.
I mean, that certainly makes the decision-making process easier. It says here he's a serious doubt for the Six Nations. So,
I agree with you. Start with so let's go with who we're starting with. So we're going Farrell, Manu, Slade, Cokanasiga, May. I agree with that. And then, fullback for me is Daly.
Yeah.
But then if you're saying you're having 3 back subs, so you've got to have, say, young starts, you've got to have Care. Then who are your other 2 subs? You've probably got to have a 10, and I think we all know it's going to be Joe. It's going to be Ford.
Yeah.
So I think he's starting. Who's your other sub? Do you have a?
I'm not sure you need another. So
I think you do need another back sub for sure in case there's an injury. Because don't forget, I would have Noel.
No.
Because he can cover fullback.
Yeah, he's definitely more of a utility out of those.
And you can always move Daly to centres if needs be.
Yeah, Daly can go centres. Daly can go on the wing. Noel can obviously come onto the wing. He's played fullback. Cokanasiga is built to play in the centres, but whether he's ever done it before.
I don't think he's a centre. I don't think you can have him as an international centre.
Slade has. I'm thinking more about worst case scenario. What are the options in who's on the pitch? But Slade's played at 12 and 13 and 10.
Yeah. But I think you do need another 10 because if there's
I agree. I think Ford and Care I think have to be on there. So then it's just a question of.
I still like Cipriani and Care, but I think it will be Ford.
And in Ford, to Ford's credit, he's played well. We just want to see Cipriani given more.
Ford's a brilliant player. Ford's a brilliant player. I'm not in any way mugging off Ford. Like, there's nothing about Ford I dislike. I just personally believe Cipriani's a better player, but that's a personal view.
Well, if we go with Noel as a third back replacement, then revert back to the back row. I agree with you. I think Zach Mercer has to be the. Well, does he have to be the option actually? Because if you've got Itoje and Laws, both of who can play back row, you're kind of covering. There as well. So
I think you've got to subwise. You've got to have 5 and 3. So you've got to have 1 hooker, 2 props.
Yeah, no. So I'm agreeing with you now, and I'm saying I agree. Care, Ford, Noel as the 3 back replacements. I'm going back now to the back row where we were saying where you were saying Zach Mercer, and I was saying I thought it might be 2 of them, Zach Mercer and Brad Shields. I'm saying obviously that can't be the case now, but then you have got back row cover in Laws and Itoje if you want to move things around. So actually that's not an issue. But do I think he'll pick Zach Mercer? It'd be nice to see. I still think he might go Shields.
I think you're right.
I think we're a long way off finding out because we're going to announce the squad and then we've still got to wait until February to find out what he's actually going to do. But and there's still time obviously for players to either become injured or to shine. But I'd like to see. My heart says Zach Mercer. My head is saying Shields.
Agreed.
So yeah, we're saying a starting 23 of we'll assume Hartley as captain, Mako and Sinclair in the front row, then Itoje, Launchbury, Wilson and Curry with Billy at number 8, then Youngs, May, Farrell, Manu, Slade in the midfield, Cokanasiga on the other wing, Daly at fullback, and then you've got Jamie George to replace Dylan Hartley. You've got Ben Moon and Harry Williams as the prop replacements. Courtney Laws, we're not sure about Zach Mercer or Brad Shields, someone in amongst them. And then Danny Kerr, George Ford and Jack Knoll as the backs replacements. I'm not that disappointed if that is what we end up seeing.
I think that's a really strong team.
It's a strong side. And given that we know that there are still players on the fringes, very much, literally flirting with the team if this is what he goes with, there's also options. So it's not like this is sort of the best we can put together from what's available. I think this is probably the best we would want to put together if everyone was available, give or take how Anthony Watson returns. And I think if Anthony Watson was fit and firing, I think he would be 15, and I think Daly would replace Noel on the bench.
No, you have to start Daly for me in one position. I think Daly's. Well,
then he's 13 instead of Slade, as I've always said.
I think it's too late to start putting him to 13. I would start Daly at fullback, and I would have Watson fight for a wing spot.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, there'll be plenty of opportunities over the course of this year to debate this because obviously, we hope that he will come back to full fitness. We hope he'll be fighting for a position, and we hope it gives Eddie Jones plenty of late nights and headaches. Because come the World Cup, it's not just a 23 we need. We need a full squad. That's kind of totally interchangeable because that's how you win World Cups.
Yeah. So everybody fit. I think the only change I would personally make would be probably Underhill.
Underhill for Curry.
Have Underhill starting, yeah.
Would you then have? Yeah. So then we. Interesting. Interesting.
I like them both, but I just thought Underhill was absolutely world class during the autumn.
Yeah, and he scored a match-winning try against New Zealand.
Well, he didn't, but actually
he did score it. He just,
it wasn't a try because it was disallowed,
wasn't it?
Well, either way, I like Underhill there. But the guy's going to have about 2 more years left on his rugby career because he's just an absolute nutter. But that's great. That's what I want as the 7. I want the 7 to.
He only needs about 9 months.
He's fearless to a point of stupidity. And I'm not calling him stupid because I'm sure he's not. But his lack of fear is shocking.
Shocking and awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely amazing as a fan, and it's absolutely brilliant as a rugby fan to see somebody. But his bravery must be terrifying for his parents.
Yes, I would imagine that is probably a fair point. But while we've been talking about him, I'm 100% in agreement with you that he needs a spot if he's not having surgery. Which he is. So I think we've selected a good side.
I agree.
And I look forward to seeing if Eddie Jones is listening and if he goes down the same route. Guys, let us know what you think. If we've missed anyone that you think is a shoo-in, or if you think we've selected someone that's got no hope, let us know. And obviously, we'll announce the squad on Thursday, which no doubt will throw some sort of cat amongst the pigeons because someone on our 23 won't even be in the squad, and then we'll be able to discuss that. And then, of course,
there's a quick question for you. If there's one person amongst those 23, I don't believe there's anyone in that 23 who won't be in the squad. But if there is, who do you think it would be?
Not in the. If I had to pick one of those not to make the squad, I don't think it will happen. If we're talking full squad. But I would say Zach Mercer, possibly.
Okay, good shout.
If you had to pick one of them to not be selected.
Yeah, that's quite a good shout. And there may be a player we're talking about who's injured and we're not aware of.
This is also true.
But assuming there's no injuries. The other one who may not make the squad, which I don't think should be the case, but possibly Danny Kerr. He's not. Yeah. He's been out of favour a couple of times. I hope that's not the case, but
I'm trying to think back to how he got on during the autumn, because he didn't he get dropped for Wigglesworth at one point during the autumn.
I believe so. Yeah. So
you're right.
It'll be interesting.
You're right. We might have that one completely wrong.
It's maybe Jack Noel. Maybe Eddie thinks he hasn't had enough game time yet.
Who? Sorry, Jack Noel.
Jack Noel. But I think Eddie's a big fan of him, and I think everyone's a big fan.
And Jack Noel's a workhorse. Like, he's the kind of guy that even especially if you've got him on the bench, I can't see him not being in the squad. I feel like he's one of those.
It's not the case.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those guys who, even if he was a doubt to be available, he would still make the squad. As if he's fit, I want the option of choosing him.
What do you think? What do you think Haskell's chances are of making the squad?
I mean, fairly high, I would say. No, unfortunately, we are fans, but I feel like that ship has sailed.
I think he knows it. I think he does add a lot.
He does. I'd like him to be taken to the World Cup as the team mascot, perhaps, as the head of social, fine master.
The thing about Haskell that I think he never gets enough credit for is, by all accounts, from what I've read and heard, he trains like an absolute dog. Even if he's not in the squad, he will help everyone. I think he's a massive benefit to the England squad as a whole, and I think it's a massive benefit to any sort of rugby squad. Yeah. However, as much of a fan as I am, at the moment, even I'll admit that I think there are people playing slightly better than him, which is no detriment to him. I just think we've got...
He is the ultimate tourist, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is to touring what Ian Poulter is to the Ryder Cup.
Sure.
Most of our listeners will get that.
I know Ryder Cup and I know Ian Poulter, but not well enough to comment, I'm afraid.
Well, in that case, do not comment. Let's. Okay. I was going to say let's move on. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to move on to at this stage. We are.
Well, yeah, I don't think we need to exhaust it, because if we come back Thursday, just for a short one to go through the squad, I think we can pick up on anything there and really look forward to, starting to really look forward to Twickenham for England Ireland. Just kidding. And yeah, I think we probably can leave that for now, and then just see if we get any, just see what happens Thursday, which I think will be really interesting, and pick it up from there.
Sounds like a plan, guys. Thanks so much for listening again. As we always say, and as I stressed last week, this is the year. This is what it all comes down to. So spread the word. Get on iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. Hopefully, if you're a regular listener, that review will be half decent, because otherwise you probably shouldn't be regularly listening. But it's how we get noticed, and it's kind of our currency, really. We don't make money from this, so we want to spread the word far and wide, and particularly because the more people we can get involved, the more support we're showing to the boys in time for November.
We often mention we don't make money from this. It's like that hashtag humble, isn't it? Like, we keep mentioning it as if we're doing some massive service, which we're not.
Huge service to England rugby.
We're not seeking anything in return, guys. But
we're not. But all we are saying is, 52 of you have dropped us a review. There's a good handful more who have tried and completely get it, because iTunes doesn't make it easy, and have kind of emailed us a review. Appreciate those. But we do get about 1,000 listeners every episode. So there are a few of you out there. Just 5 minutes, guys. Pop over to iTunes. If you go to Twitter, there's a link. I put a link with every one of our episode posts. Click through on the link. Head to Twitter. Head to iTunes. Drop us a quick review. Tell us what you think. it'll do us the world of favours. We'd really appreciate that. And but
awesome.
most importantly, keep tuning in, keep listening, keep supporting the boys, and let's keep following them on their way. I've mentioned before, emails always useful. Questions, get your quiz questions in. Ask us anything if there's anything you want us to discuss, and also tell us what you think of what we've been discussing today. You can email us englandrugbypod@gmail.com, and we're on Twitter, as I mentioned, and Facebook and everything else, and that's @englandrugbypod. So get in touch, guys.
Awesome.